Hello, this is KYC News. We provide you with the most up-to-date and reliable information for the day. First and foremost, we want to achieve perfect health with a sincere desire. Spitting in the face of the European Union, the accusation is clear-cut. Iran claims that the top diplomat from the EU will arrive later on June 24 for talks. Afghanistan's eastern region is ravaged by a second earthquake. Spitting in the face of the European Union, the accusation is clear-cut. In an interview with Belarusian state television BTRC Friday night, some of which was made available on the website of the Russian Foreign Ministry, Minister Lavrov remarked, "What amazes me more than the lies told every day by the regime in Kyiv is the West participating in this game of disseminating untruths. An illegitimate coup in Ukraine, according to the chief of Russian diplomacy, is spitting in the face of the European Union, which had previously provided guarantees for Yanukovych's deal with three opposition leaders through France, Germany, and Poland. The following morning, they trampled on everything and declared that the elimination of the Russian language's regional identity was the first priority before sending armed outlaws into the Crimea. That is how it all began," Lavrov stated. Pence, a former vice president of the United States, criticizes Iran's nuclear negotiations. On Thursday, the former vice president of the United States, Mike Pence, attacked the Biden administration's negotiations with Iran over a potential nuclear deal. The White House adopted a particularly tough stance toward Iran during Pence's tenure in the previous administration of President Donald Trump, dropping out of the 2015 nuclear agreement with Tehran and escalating sanctions against the Islamic Republic. Speaking to hundreds of members of the exiled Iranian opposition group the People's Mujahideen of Iran, MEK, in Albania, Vice President Mike Pence said, "Now President Biden and his administration are threatening to undo all the progress we made in marginalizing the despotic dictatorship in Tehran." Pence continued, "We demand that the Biden administration immediately end all nuclear negotiations with Tehran." Conservative Republicans, such as former House Speaker Newt Gingrich and Trump's National Security Advisor John Bolton, have backed the MEK in the past. The MEK supported Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini during the revolution that overthrew the monarchy in 1979, but soon developed a rift with the new Islamic authorities and launched an uprising against the government. At the request of Washington and the UN, Albania agreed in 2013 to accept some 3,000 members of the exiled Iranian opposition group. In order to bring the US back into the nuclear agreement, including by removing sanctions on Iran, Joe Biden's administration launched a fresh round of talks with Iran in Vienna in April 2021. But since March, the delicate conversation has come to a standstill. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, signed in 2015 provided Iran respite from sanctions in exchange for limits on its nuclear program, ensuring that Tehran could not produce nuclear weapons, something it has consistently denied wishing to do. But during Trump's administration, the U.S. withdrew from the agreement and reinstituted harsh economic penalties, which led Iran to start breaking its own promises. Iran's foreign minister claimed earlier this week that despite additional U.S. sanctions against the Islamic Republic, the train has still not derailed in talks to revive the 2015 nuclear agreement with major powers. Iran claims that the top diplomat from the EU will arrive later on June 24 for talks. According to Iran's foreign ministry, Josep Borrell, the top diplomat for the European Union, will visit Iran late on June 24 in an effort to revive negotiations for the renewal of a 2015 nuclear agreement with major world powers. Speaking on behalf of the Iranian Foreign Ministry, Saeed Khatibzadeh said that during the visit, which is a part of ongoing negotiations between Iran and the European Union, bilateral relations, regional and international issues, as well as the latest status of sanctions lifting will be discussed. When then U.S. President Donald Trump suddenly withdrew in 2018, the agreement started to unravel. Since then, Washington has imposed crippling sanctions on Tehran, and in response, the Iranian government, which rejects the notion that its nuclear program aims to develop a bomb, has reneged on some of the agreements outlined in the agreement. Iran has been in direct talks to resurrect the agreement, officially known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, for more than a year with China, Britain, Germany, France, Russia, and the United States. A revised agreement was apparently close to being reached in March, but the Vienna negotiations abruptly came to a halt in April as Tehran and Washington each pointed the finger at the other for failing to make the required political decisions to resolve outstanding difficulties. Early in June, Tehran announced that it had begun removing 27 security cameras from nuclear installations all throughout the nation, significantly hindering Western efforts to keep tabs on Iran's nuclear program. Enrique Mora, the EU's special representative for the nuclear negotiations, shared a photo late on June 23 of a meal he was attending in Brussels with Borrell and Robert Malley, the U.S. special representative for the negotiations. With partner universities, ICC presents a webinar on 20 years of the court in the Asia-Pacific region. The International Criminal Court, ICC or the court, hosted an online webinar on the subject of 20 years of the International Criminal Court in Asia-Pacific on June 23, 2022, in collaboration with partner universities from the Asia-Pacific region, Doshisha University, Ua Women's University, Kyoto University, and Seoul National University. Panelists from Japan, Korea, China, and Fiji spoke throughout the webinar and covered a range of subjects pertaining to the ICC and the Asia-Pacific area. Opening and closing speeches were made by ICC judges Chang Ho-chung and Tomoko Akane. This occasion was arranged to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the Rome Statute's implementation and to promote greater understanding of the court in the Asia-Pacific region. 19 of the 123 states that have ratified the Rome Statute are in the Asia-Pacific region. The International Criminal Court, ICC, will celebrate its 20th birthday on July 1, 2022. On this day in 2002, the International Criminal Court, ICC, was established after the Rome Statute was ratified by 60 states. Specifically, war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and aggression are investigated and prosecuted by the ICC, the first permanent international criminal court. The ICC expresses gratitude to the European Commission for funding this event. Afghanistan's eastern region is ravaged by a second earthquake. Another, lesser earthquake rocked an area in eastern Afghanistan that was the site of a deadly quake earlier this week, according to state media, killing at least 5 people. According to the government-run Victor news agency, the quake struck early on Friday near Paktika's Gayan district. Initial reports state that it harmed more than 11 persons. According to the most recent statistics reported by official media, the area is still reeling from the magnitude 6 earthquake that struck the area on Wednesday and left 1,150 people dead and scores more injured. According to the most recent statistics reported in official media on Friday, the death toll from a deadly earthquake in Afghanistan has risen days after it reduced brick and stone homes to rubble, killing 1,150 people and injuring countless others. The 38 million-strong nation was already experiencing a terrible economic crisis that had driven millions of people into abject poverty and put more than 1 million children at serious risk of starvation. The magnitude 6 earthquake that occurred on Wednesday while people were asleep left thousands without shelter and threw the country's growing needs into sharp relief. 8 organizations regret having to pay local employees with bags of cash delivered by hand since countries won't do business with the Taliban directly. Afghanistan is still blocked off from the global financial system. The World Food Programme and local Red Crescent have intervened to provide food and other emergency necessities like tents and sleeping mats to the most vulnerable households in Paktika province, the epicenter of the earthquake, and nearby Khost province. However, despite the efforts of their new Taliban-led administration and the international humanitarian community to provide assistance, locals look to be mostly left on their own to deal with the aftermath. Damage and rain made the poor mountain routes going to the impacted communities even worse. Villagers have started burying their dead and manually searching through the debris for survivors. The state-run Victor news agency's Taliban director reported on Friday that the death toll had increased from the earlier reported 1,000 dead to 1,150. At least 1,600 individuals were hurt, according to Abdul Wahid Ryan. 770 people have died, according to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Given the challenges in reaching out to and connecting with the affected areas, it is unclear how death toll totals are determined. Either sobering death toll would make the earthquake the deadliest in Afghanistan in the last 20 years. Nearly 3,000 dwellings were either demolished or severely damaged, according to state media. At least 1,000 residences in the Gayan district sustained damage as a result of the earthquake. In the Spare district of the province of Khost, another 800 dwellings also sustained damage. While contemporary structures may withstand earthquakes of magnitude 6 elsewhere, Afghanistan's mud brick houses and mountains that are prone to landslides make such quakes more perilous. Even though it is only 175 kilometers from Kabul to some communities in the Gayan district, the area's roads are so poorly constructed and challenging to travel, 110 miles away. Families who had spent the previous rainy night out in the open lifted parts of collapsed roofs and hauled away stones by hand, while Associated Press journalists spent hours touring villages throughout the Gayan district searching for missing loved ones. Few Taliban members were visible assisting to sift through the debris, despite the fact that Taliban fighters were moving around in trucks. There was little sign of heavy equipment, only one bulldozer was spotted being transported. Ambulances circulated, but little other help to the living was evident. One 6-year-old boy in Gayan wept as he said his parents, 2 sisters and a brother were all dead. He had fled the ruins of his own home and took refuge with the neighbors. Many international aid agencies withdrew from Afghanistan when the Taliban seized power last August. Those that remain are scrambling to get medical supplies, food and tents to the remote quake-struck area. UN agencies are also facing a $3 billion funding shortfall for Afghanistan this year. Germany, Norway, and a number of other nations declared they were providing relief after the earthquake, but emphasized that they would only do so through UN organizations and not through the Taliban, who have not yet been recognized by any government. The rights and freedoms of Afghan women and girls are among the top human rights concerns that nations have urged the Taliban to address first. The International Rescue Committee said it is giving cash assistance to people who lost their houses and means of support in the earthquake. It has emergency health teams in the 2 provinces to give crucial first aid. The group, which has been active in Afghanistan since 1988, is urging the development of a global strategy for the eventual release of the country's foreign exchange holdings. After the Taliban seized control of the nation last year as the United States was preparing to withdraw its troops, the Biden administration decided to freeze the $9.5 billion that the Afghan central bank had in American banks, which made it difficult for the new government to pay employees and import goods. Trucks carrying food and other essentials arrived from Pakistan, and aircraft carrying humanitarian relief from Iran and Qatar touched down. India sent a technical team and humanitarian aid to the Afghan capital of Kabul to organize the distribution of aid. According to India, a local UN organization and the Afghan Red Crescent Society will get its aid. The earthquake in Paktika province rocked a region of extreme poverty, where locals eke out a life in the few fertile regions among the rugged mountains. According to estimates cited by the UN and others, this year's unemployment rate could reach 40% and the percentage of people living in poverty could reach as high as 97%.